When I think about the seasons growing up, I remember them being kind of like milestones throughout the year. The same as certain things going on in school or in home life, Christmas coming around, birthdays coming around. Kind of the same with the seasons, I guess. The East Highland Way is a lesser known trail in the Scottish Highlands that runs from west to east, from Fort William to Aviemore. The plan is to hike the trail twice, once now in winter and again in summer. I hope to see the environment, see what's on the ground, see the conditions now as they will compare to those in summer, and then ask experts, authors, scientists and local people what impacts climate change is having on the area, and are our seasons lost?
With climate change, things are getting sort of imperceptibly but definitely getting warmer all the time, and that will and is already starting to affect our seasons here in Scotland but also in other mountainous areas around the world.
Imagine if you spent your whole kind of life, your skill set, involved in snow sports up here, and you're looking at these winters and then becoming, fewer and fewer, and the period of snowfall is less and less.
For us in Scotland, one of the biggest sort of sports in mountaineering is Scottish winter climbing and winter hill walking, both of which need really good snow cover and sort of ice and snow on the ground to actually qualify as winter mountaineering.
Differentiation in temperature, that freeze thaw, lots of different layers in the snow, then the landscape's more prone to things like avalanches, and that's a lot riskier for people climbing or doing any kind of sport really out in the snow.
Historically, a winter here in the West Highlands would have been significant volumes of snow to quite low altitudes, very cold. Increasingly now, what we're seeing are wetter winters, warmer winters, the snow line moving up and up the mountain. We're seeing our spring periods extend and seeing a definite change in the amounts of precipitation and when they arrive throughout the year.
I think everybody just loves being up in the snow, don't they? Like it's that part of you that's like a kid. You just want to play in the snow whenever you can find it. And we don't get tons of snow low down in the village. There may be occasionally during the winter, but most of the time it's more up the hill. So it's always nice to get up into the snow. It's a bit transformative, isn't it? I think you can go up the same hills and it feels like a totally different place. With Scotland, you often get this snow line, which then you can just see across the hills. If you can see across the Highlands, all the hills have got the same white snow line, and it's just really striking.
With a changing climate, there's always a worry of some winners and some losers in ecology. So if you look at some of the species in the national park that we have that changes their fur or their plumage in the winter, they go through a metamorphosis, like the ptarmigan or the mountain hare. Both of those species live up in the mountains and they turn white in the winter. And it benefits them to be the same or a similar color as their background because of their fear of predation. The weather, the snow, that dictates the color of the landscape and therefore how effective the camouflage is of these creatures. We have capercaillie. Now, capercaillie are another grouse species like the ptarmigan. Although they don't turn white in winter, they are affected by some of the seasonal change, and we're seeing warmer, wetter springs in general, and that does no good for the mortality of the young chicks.
It feels like it could be fall, it could be spring right now, but in theory we should be in the middle of winter. It's the middle of February, but we have sun on my face, blue skies, and everything's super green. So let's see how it is in June time. I've not hiked much in the UK and never in Scotland before now. I've always chased big hikes or long trails further afield, but already just a few days into the first hike, I've been constantly surprised. One minute we're wandering through small towns, and the next we're up in wide open moorland with these huge expanses, totally alone for hours.
The way you travel is really different in the summer and in the winter. But the landscapes completely transform. And people often say to me, don't you just get bored like running the same routes all the time? But I can genuinely say that I just don't, because it's never the same. I mean, surely that's got to be one of the beauties of the Scottish weather, is that it is so variable and frankly unpredictable. Even when the forecast says it's going to be sunny, it's almost never sunny. And if the forecast says it's going to be, cloudy and miserable and rainy, okay, it often is, but sometimes you can go out and you can get an incredible set of conditions, and they look different every time. The fact that I can go and run in these hills through all the seasons means I get to see all their different, characters.
Out of all the areas in the UK, the Cairngorms is where you get the most drastic changes in seasons. So it's here where you get the real kind of harsh winters. I mean, if you go up to the Cairngorm Plateau now, it is still locked full of snow. I mean, it's harsh up there. It's minus temperatures. It's that tundra environment.
Finishing the first hike, we arrived into Aviemore, a town built around tourism and skiing, to find it wet and warm and relatively quiet in the middle of winter. Having seen the impact of climate change on the landscape, the businesses, the wildlife and the lives of those who live along the trail, we were set to return in a few months in the height of summer.
As soon as spring hits and it's getting warmer, all the greenery starts to pop out from underneath the grey colors, and it's just an absolutely amazing feeling. All the birds start to come up, flowers popping up from the ground. It's just an amazing place.
So when I first moved to Scotland, I was really blown away by the environment. I love when I run that I can just carry my stuff, everything that I need kind of on my back, and you just tap into that little part of you, that little primordial part of you that still wants to adventure and explore and go back to basics. There's just such a sense of freedom about it, because you know, in the Scottish Highlands in particular, you can effectively go wherever you want as long as you're responsible with that.
Stepping onto the East Highland Way for the second time was instantly different. The seasonal weather had definitely shifted. It gave me some sense of hope that these natural stages of change were still there, not yet a blur of weather, temperature and colour.
There's a lot more bugs, there's butterflies, there's dragonflies. As opposed to in February, it was a lot quieter, a lot less bird song. Everything's just much more alive this time of year. Something very noticeable about this trip versus the February trip is just that everything's a lot drier underfoot. A lot of the water sources that we used in the winter trip were just non-existent this time round. The landscape in general was a lot drier. Of course it will be in summertime, but much more so than I was expecting, and people have said that this is a particularly dry summer.
You can just see behind us there's now the last remnants of winter snow up on the head wall. Those patches are quite a bit smaller than I would expect to see for this time of the year.
Normally when I come to a patch of snow like the one we have behind us, it's a difficult process sometimes to measure it. Over the years I've become very adept at estimating what a size is. As the patch becomes smaller, I then get my 100-metre tape measure out, I then log it at home, the size of them, the location, and then at the end of the season I record in a paper which is published in the Royal Meteorological Society every year.
The reason why I think patches of snow like this are so important is they act as a sort of barometer of what the wider climate is doing. We're in this lovely cavern, and the cavern has been created by the warmth of the granite emanating heat which forces the snow away from it. That then is embellished by the wind passing across the front of the face here, which creates these wonderful hexagonal scallops, and they're called ablation hollows. the work that I'm doing now, I really hope in 100 years' time, it's of statistical significance to people looking back to see what the climate was doing and to gain a better understanding. The most worrying thing for me as someone who studies these patches of snow is that actually in the future there won't be any patches of any significant size to study. The quantity of snow that I would expect to see here is far less now than it's been in previous years. Normally come here, the walls of the snow can be anything up to 10 to 15 metres deep. So we're seeing a significant reduction in quantity of snow. But it's my belief, based on the quantity of snow that exists in the cairngorms today, that we're going to see all of this snow disappear. And if that does happen, 2023 will be the first year where we've had consecutive years of no snow in Scotland. So 2022, 2023, all snow will have gone. That's never happened before. We're really fortunate in the UK that we've got a really good set of writings from historical authors. Dr. Johnson, Robert Burns, all these people travelled in the Highlands and wrote about it. And they mentioned patches of snow on the hills in a sort of by-the-way manner. Quite a lot of the time they gave dates. And so I can now look at those dates at the times those writings were done and say, they're seeing patches of snow on hills in the 1700s, 1800s that we would never hope to see at that time of the year. I think when people in 100 years look back, they will see that we've taken photographs and made records of patch of snow in the middle of the Cairngorm at the end of June, still 100 metres long, and they'll probably be wowed by that. When the hills, if the hills are denuded of snow, then they're going to be a much poorer place to be, because snow really enhances the landscape, it transforms it.
Now, towards the end of the second hike, I realise we are documenting a moment in time where the seasons still hold a grip on the hills. The snow still falls, the sun still shines, and the people of this region still feel change across the year. But where we had seen the loss of the extremes of cold, we were also seeing the increases in extremes of heat.
Our experience right now in Spearbridge on the west coast of Scotland, our seasonal temperatures are at least 5 degrees over our seasonal norm. It hasn't rained here really in any volume for probably 4 weeks. Temperatures are averaging in the afternoons 26, 27, 28 degrees, unseasonably warm for us. We are in a period of very high risk, which is determined by the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service, and they put out wildfire risk assessments. The whole of Scotland is at extreme. We're seeing these very short, intense electric storms. We haven't had large volumes of snowmelt, so that's added to the drying out of the ground. So you've got a whole series of things coming together. So you've got less snow melt, very dry spring, the ground warming up and drying out. So as the daytime temperatures go up, the air temperature goes up and triggers the fire. So we are in a really, really unusually high period of wildfire risk right now. We can lose communities, we can lose homes, we can lose our industry, we can lose our power supply, we can lose our water systems. So it has economic impacts. These fires have massive community impacts, and really importantly, they have massive environmental impacts, huge. Our organisation has a target of being carbon neutral by 2030. Now that's only 7 years away. So we've set a high bar and we're working hard to achieve that. And we need to all be moving faster on those subjects, because as you're experiencing here now, we're in the middle of the heat wave in the west coast of Scotland. These are conditions I don't think sort of the last 2 generations can ever remember. We are without doubt in a period of serious climate change, and we need to act. The evidence is out there.
I love going into the hills, and we'll do it regardless of whether there's snow there or not. But for me, one of the main drivers to come to places like this is seeing wonderful experiences like this. So it makes me kind of profoundly sad to think that in the future, people who come after me will not experience the things that I was able to.
I don't think there's any better way to connect with the place than to walk through it. And so to do that twice in 2 different seasons, I do feel truly connected to it. But it feels as though I might not ever see it in quite the same way again.